to be chatting together about, well, let me not say, because Jules and Peter are going to lead this session. So let me hand over to them and they can guide you into what's going to happen in this next session.
Thank you, Sarah. So for the next session, we'll start with feedback on the individual learning journey. I sent out a survey asking you to respond. I'm glad that almost all of you responded. I got over 30 responses. So we'll be sharing back. We looked at the data. It was interesting. So we'll be sharing back with you what we observed from the lessons you shared. Then later we'll have a conversation with the learning buddies to really reconnect with them, see how that has been, and see if you want to make any more plans moving forward. Then we'll have a short break, and then later we'll have a program assessment at about 3:30. So if you can bring up the... Yeah, so I was very curious to see what would be the main themes from the lessons you shared about your learning journey. So I got the information you shared and then put it in a word cloud. And it's interesting that it resonates with the theory of change we had for the program, where we say that transformation starts with the self. You can see the bold words there. Self, team, growth. There's a lot of discussions that were happening around communication. I think one of the organizations has a full transformation action plan on communication. Yesterday there was a lot of talk about emotional intelligence, accountability, awareness. Yeah, so these are the main themes that are coming out so far. So it was interesting to really see how just that snapshot already kind of resonates with the theory of change and the thinking that we had around how transformation happens. In terms of the key discoveries, some of the main discoveries were identified was, again, awareness of personality types. It came out strongly, and it seems it's an area that you still want to carry forward with your teams to make sure that your other members in the organization are also exposed to this, so there is a deeper awareness. And from the feedback you shared, you mentioned how it was useful in shaping decisions, understanding your motivations and relationships. Also issues around emotions and anger, anxiety. An interesting one that many people shared was perfectionism and control, that tendency to try to control things, to try to make sure that things are perfect, was a good revelation there. Then the focus on others versus self. So it was also a very common occurrence for a number of you. But it was interesting to see that when we looked at some of the changes, a number of people had recognized this and were looking at self-care. How do they shift to really move towards self-care? Then the fear of judgment and avoidance of direct confrontation. I think this has been a recurring discovery among even in the different cohorts that we have. So I think there's something around fear of judgment, confrontation, difficult conversations. Yeah. So in terms of how the discoveries contributed to leadership and development, you had a lot of discussion around emotional intelligence from one of the groups yesterday, which is a clear sign there. Balancing empathy with boundaries. I think even this morning it came out, I think, from Fitch, how they're looking at how do you, creating that kind of balance and how it's important. Confidence and authentic leadership, delegation and trust. Delegation has also been a big issue that has emerged from a number of leaders that responded to the survey. And also the issue around improved relationships, intentional listening, moving away from the listening to respond to listening to understand. Because when people are talking to us, sometimes we are quick at responding. And yet a person either wants to be heard, hugged, or helped. But we rush to help and forget the other two perspectives. Yes, so I'll go into what impacted the leaders most. Again, self-awareness. This whole Enneagram process and what it exposed you was quite outstanding. The reflection and journaling, team connection and collective learning. Then also important was the safe reflective environment that the coaches provided for the teams to, kind of reflect, and the ongoing practices that they provided, and also putting the lessons into action. Now, a number of shifts have already occurred over the period towards the new way of leading. A number of you had metaphors on your new way of leading, and these are some of the shifts that we've noted. One was improved communication and transparency, and we see this continuing even in the transformational action plans. Then team engagement and ownership. I think with the openness and teams are really taking more responsibility, showing initiative, acting with accountability. The emotional intelligence, I mentioned that already. It's a key theme that is really running across. The collaboration and team spirit, and then the resilience and adaptability. The number of challenges around adopting new practices, especially journaling, which has been a bit of a challenge for a number of you. Resistance to setting boundaries and individual transformation. It was interesting to see that some individuals reported that they were facing resistance from either their teams or the people they interact with because of how they had changed. Their colleagues could not imagine the changes they had gone through, and they were actually facing that kind of resistance because of the transformation that had happened. I found that very interesting. An inconsistency in applying practices, learning to balance self-care with professional responsibilities, and the pressure to become perfect leaders. But I hope we can overcome this. So the priorities for the next 3 months, I think we've done this. So as we finalize, I want to leave you with a poem. The poem is inspired by the journey, the lessons you've had across the journey. And it's called Keep Growing. We came expecting lessons, yet we found surprises within. Hidden strength, quiet voices, new courage rising from deep places. We grew through questions, not answers, through listening, reflection, and trust. Leadership became less about standing tall and more about lifting others higher. Enthusiasm carried us forward in laughter, in honest conversations, in the small daily practices that slowly shaped us into more. So let us keep growing with open hands and steady hearts, watering the seeds we've planted until they bloom into forests of change. Thank you.
Who wrote the poem? Do you know who wrote the poem? Would anybody like to claim it? Can we just go back to it? Sorry. Peter wrote the poem. I think a big round of applause.
You collectively. Wow. It's beautiful.
Yes. Should go on the website.
Yeah. Yes. Aha. With a new logo. Wonderful. Anybody want to comment on what stands out the most? Is it true? Watering the seeds we've planted, for me. Yeah, great. Good. Thanks so much, Peter, for that wonderful presentation. And actually, it was such a good insight into the feedback from everyone in terms of what their learnings and their transformation insights have been. I'm just wondering whether anybody would like to get a copy of that. Anybody, if just speak to, is that okay, Joyce? Yes, that's okay. Yeah, if anybody would like to get a copy of it, please speak to Peter. Because I thought it was very insightful, because it kind of just encapsulates everything that you've learned and insights. So thanks very much. Okay, good. So today, now